Are you ready? Notebooks ready? Notes app ready? We're in part 3. I originally thought that this was only going to be 3 parts, but I thought it was so good. We're going to keep going. So we're going to see how far we actually go with talking about courage, talking about being courageous, fighting fear. And that's where I want to continue what's already been discussed tonight about fear and overcoming it and how to overcome it. And so if you're taking notes, which you should be, I hope you are, this one's called The Command of Courage. The Command of Courage. And let me ask you a question before we get in too deep. Have you ever been texting somebody and you're writing a word, but while you're writing this word, like it's a big word, like a $2 word, and you're trying to spell it and it's just not happening, and so you have to settle for like a 2-cent word? Anybody know what? Like, when I was in middle school, we did these things called spelling tests. Do you guys still have to take spelling tests? Yeah. You do? Okay. I hate spelling tests. If the Lord ever leads me to being a elementary or middle school teacher, my students would not be doing spelling tests. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, spelling test for me, here's what would happen. We'd take the test, let's say it was on Monday. We'd take the test on Monday. On Tuesday, they'd be graded. We'd get them back, and I'd see that big red number in the corner, 40. And that's a good week right there. But what I was able to do is do my other homework, do my other projects, do my other things, and get good grades on those and kind of hide these failing spelling tests in between those so my grade didn't look as bad as, those tests could have been. And I had this plan, and the plan was working forever. We'd get the spelling test back. I knew how to hide them and make sure parents didn't see them, and life was good. Except one day, we get our spelling test back, our graded spelling test back, with the red ink in the corner, and it also happens to be parent visitation day. And so the plan that has been working flawlessly is now about to crumble before my eyes because my dad is sitting in the back of the room with the other parents and knows that we got our spelling test back. And I know that he's going to ask me, how'd you do on your spelling test? And it might have been a 30 that week. And so, and I never understood because teachers are always like, you got to know how to spell, you got to know how to spell. And I'm thinking, well, there's spell check that's developing now and this new technology. And what do they say? In the real world, you're not going to have spell check. Well, and your math teacher. In the real world, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket with you at all times. I beg to differ, Mrs. Smith. I can do trigonometry anytime I want. I just have to ask Google and make sure I spell it correctly. But my dad saw the test, and from that day forward, I had to study and learn things and learn words and all that. And so, have you ever been texting and you just couldn't get it right? Like, how many of us have been texting a phrase like, we defiantly have to go to that place, when we really meant we definitely need to go to that place? Anybody ever done that one before? Or you're trying to write a word like it was extraordinarily, and for whatever reason, and you just feel dumb in the moment, like, I know how to spell extraordinarily, I know how to do this, but I can't get it, and Google is like, who the heck are you? Like, did you even go to second grade and do this? And so instead of extraordinarily, you just say, very. You hear what I'm saying? Any of you ever done this before? Or am I the only one that's getting 30s on spelling tests? Defiantly. I'm defiantly the only one that's doing this? Okay. We trade these awesome 2-letter words for these 2-cent words, and it changes the context of everything. You're tracking with me. The same thing happens with courage and fear. Because we reduce our lives sometimes, oftentimes, to accommodate the fears in our life. Let me put it this way. If you have a fear of flying and you never get on a plane, you never have to face that fear. But you've reduced your life to never getting on a plane and traveling to where you want to go. You tracking with me? And when we allow fear to reduce our lives and become comfortable, we will never be fruitful. If we allow fear to make us comfortable, we will never be fruitful. And fear is not our friend. Fear is something that makes you think, oh, this is the way to go. Fear often masquerades itself as wisdom. And makes you think, no, this is the smart thing to do, is not go and do that ridiculous thing, because you might ruin your reputation if you step out and say something for me, Jesus says. And these words of fear come into our lives, and fear, you can write this one, fear is just faith in the wrong God. Fear is just faith in the wrong God. And because we're allowing fear to become way bigger than it actually is, when all we need is to carry a little bit more courage with us and go and do what God is asking us to do. And so we're not going to be people that reduce our lives because of the fear that we're facing. We're going to be people that step into it and go after what God is calling us to do, regardless of the fear that's trying to stop us. That's the ministry that we have. That's the person that you are. That's the son or daughter of God that you are. And so we live these courageous lives. And it's hard to talk about courage and not bring up this guy named Joshua in the Bible. So if you have your Bibles or if you have it on your phone, go to Joshua chapter 1. It's in the Old Testament, and it's right after Deuteronomy. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Joshua. So go there. Numbers is in there too. We'll get Numbers in there later. Numbers is just a list of numbers. It really is. But I'll give you a Numbers verse later to make up for the pickup. So here's what's happening. Joshua is a leader. He just found out that Moses has died. He doesn't have time to mourn his death. God says, I'm going to be with you how I was with Moses. Moses was one of the most famous leaders, if not the famous leader in all of Israel. And he, the Bible says that he was a friend of God, meaning he talked face to face with God. Some translations say mouth to mouth with God. It is what it is. But this is how close he is with God. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Like, he would talk to God, he would glow and have to cover himself so that he could talk to, the regular people. That's how close he is with God. And so Moses, he parted the seas, they did all this amazing stuff, but now he's dead. He has passed on. And God says, Joshua, I need to use you to do what I was going to do with Moses. I need you to finish what he started. And I need you to lead my people into the promised land. And so if you have your Bibles and you highlight in your Bibles, Joshua chapter 1, verse 6. This is where we're going to start. It says, be strong and courageous. This is God talking directly to Joshua. This is why we're calling it the command of courage. He says, be strong and courageous. That's kind of commanding. That's kind of a big deal that God is making right here. Because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to cower or to accommodate our fears when it's just about me, when it's just for me, when I'm the only person at stake, when I'm the only person that it affects. It's much easier for me to shrink back and allow fear to take over. But Joshua doesn't have that luxury here. We don't have that luxury as leaders. it's easier for us to be filled with courage when we know other people are depending on their promise through us. As leaders, we don't have the luxury to cower. We have to step in with courage and say, this generation is counting on me to step up into this unknown place, this unknown thing, this fear that's in front of me. I have to lead these people. God's by my side, and He's going to bring me everywhere that I need to go and show me what I need, and He's going to resource me with the things that I have. Yes, I'm still afraid, but Joshua, be strong and courageous because I need you to fulfill the promise that I made to their ancestors. And when I have things on my shoulders, the responsibility of their promised land, I'm filled with a little more courage because they're depending on me. Are you following me? And this is what's happening with Joshua. He understands now that he is the catalyst for this promise to be fulfilled. You are the catalyst for some of the people that you're interacting with for the promise of God to be fulfilled in their life. You are the one that needs to stand in courage, be strong and courageous, because I have a promise for that person, and I'm going to deliver that promise to them through you. You see what's happening here. You see how personal this is. Some people say the Old Testament is irrelevant and whatever. No. This is still irrelevant today. We have to be courageous because somebody else's promise is depending on it. And God says, be strong and courageous. Look at verse 7. Be strong and very courageous. In case you missed it the first time, let me put this 2-cent word in front of it. Very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Listen to me. Being courageous doesn't mean being dumb. Write that one down. Being courageous doesn't mean being dumb. This is good preaching. Thank you very much. It means that I just have more courage than I do fear, and I also have character. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. You know, bank robbers have courage, and they're dumb. Think about it for a minute. We have to have courage and character. And that's why God is telling him, be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law. Look at verse 8. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be very careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. We become prosperous and successful when the people that we are leading, the people that we interact with, the people that we live with, get their promised land. If all we do is become prosperous and successful just for myself, it's not going to last very long. God is saying, Joshua, you need to be strong, you need to be courageous, because their promise is depending on you, and you won't be successful until they get their promise. You follow that? Your success is dependent on them getting their promise. I'm only successful when you get your promise. I'm only successful when I'm serving other people and allowing them to achieve what they want and their goals. You follow that? If I get everything that I desire and it's only for my selfish needs, it won't last long and I won't be happy very long. We are courageous and prosperous when we are serving and leading God's people into their promised land. Look at verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. This is the third time he's saying this now. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Somebody say, wherever you go. A few years ago, we were at Urban Hope. Some of you have been to Urban Hope in Philadelphia. Some of you will go eventually. I had been there, 10, 12 times, however many times it is, I know what's there. I know what things look like. But for whatever reason, this particular year that we went, this was a few years back, I was afraid. And I didn't tell anybody that I was afraid until after we got back, because I didn't want anybody else to be afraid, because that would be not good. And while we were there, something strange happened. Like I'm telling you, like 2-3 weeks before we go, like this black cloud, like you see in cartoons or whatever, is just following me, and it's just this fear, like, ooh, Urban Hope. Whenever I would remember it, I would just get overcome with this fear, and I don't know why. The ride up, fear, and it was what it was. And we get through the weekend. Usually we're there Friday night, all day Saturday, and most of Sunday. And we're finishing up the weekend. Like, we're doing everything, and we're seeing a lot of really cool things happen. We're stepping into some homeless ministry that we haven't done before. We're doing some amazing things. And the whole time there's this nagging fear that, but at the same time, I'm still stepping into what we're doing and hoping that this feeling goes away. When we're getting ready to leave, we get on the bus, and one of our leaders that was with us, I don't know if they even remember saying this or not, but I walk on the bus, and they say, "There's Cody, our fearless leader." And, did y'all see that? And at the time, I just laughed. Because nobody knew how afraid I actually was that time. I've never been had fear like that ever since. I'd been there multiple times after this instance. I'd never been afraid after that. But that leader said that on the bus, and I believe it came from God. And God's like, I know that you've been afraid this whole weekend. I know that you've been afraid leading up to this weekend. But you still did it. You still were stepping forward. And I've given you enough courage, and we saw some amazing things happen that year. We saw amazing breakthrough, and we saw intimate time with many people in our group with the Lord. And so when we are faced with fear, all we have to do is keep stepping. When there's fear, just take another step. When there's fear, just take another step. When you're feeling it, just take another step. All you have to do is do it afraid. I mean, Nike has it awesome. Just do it. And maybe we can add a subtitle to it, do it afraid. When you're feeling fear, just do it anyway. Because there's probably something on the other side of that fear that fear knows is going to be a breakthrough either for you or for somebody else, and the only way to get to it is to go through it. You feel me? And so when you feel fear, when you feel like that anxiousness inside of you, that butterfly feeling of, oh, I don't want to do what are people going to think. Do it anyway. Do it afraid. You know, the feeling of fear is not a sin. Just like temptation is not a sin. But maybe living a subpar life because of fear is. And when we reduce the lives that God meant for us to have into something more comfortable that we can control because of fear, maybe we're missing the mark a little bit then. What would you do if you were 10 times bolder and money was no object? You don't need to answer it right now, but just think about that for a second. What would you do if you were 10 times bolder than you are right now and money was no object? I heard somebody ask this question, and the follow-up to this is, if it's not what you're doing, then you've reduced your life. If you're not doing that thing, if it's different than what you're doing right now, then you've reduced your life because of fear. That makes you think a little bit. God prophesied to millions of Israelites. He said, I'm going to deliver you from slavery, from Egypt, into a promised land. Millions of people he's sharing this with. Millions of people he's making this promise. And only 2 people saw this happen. Out of millions of people that heard, you're going to get into the promised land, 2 got in. Joshua, who we just read about, and Caleb. And our Caleb is named after that Caleb. I promise you that. And I can't wait to meet that dude. These 2 guys were part of a group of 12 spies that while they were circling the desert, they went in and spied out this promised land. Moses said, go out and look at this land. Bring back a report, see what they have, see how the people are, and we'll make a game plan after that. Joshua and Caleb were the only ones to return and say, hold me back because we're about to get this. You should see this place, Moses. Like, it's flowing with milk and honey, just like he was talking about. And the grapes are huge. Like we had to carry 6 guys on each side just to bring them back for you to taste them. And the people, yeah, they're big. They're really big. But we can take them. Look at what he says. I told you I was going to give you a verse in Numbers. Look at Numbers chapter 14. Joshua and Caleb, they're saying this. The land we passed through to spy out is it's very good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us. A land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are bread. That's weird. That dude over there, bread. That chick over there, sourdough bread, y'all. Have you ever described a friend or a person as bread? I'm telling you what, this is why I needed to extend this series, because the next time that we're together, I'm sorry, we're not going to be here next week, but in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about why he says they are our bread. So put a bookmark there, whatever you need to do. It says, their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them. Only Joshua and Caleb are saying this. Everybody else is like, we look like grasshoppers in front of these people. And they come back and they just cry and whine and wail, and because of that, they had to wait 40 years in order to see that promise come to be. Joshua and Caleb were ready to take it, but because of the people that they were around and the decision that they made, it wasn't a bad promise or a bad prophecy from God that caused them to not get into the promised land. It was because they were around fearful people that have reduced themselves to be comfortable where they're at. The people around them delayed their promise. You've probably heard this quote before, but show me your friends and I'll show you your future. The people that you are hanging around is a good indicator of where you might be going. If you're around really good people that make really good decisions, you'll probably make some really good decisions. If you're around the opposite, you'll probably go the other way. It's so vital to pick the right crowd to be with. Jim Rohn, he's like this motivational speaker, really good motivational speaker. He said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Who are you hanging around? Really take an inventory of this, because if it's not people that you want to be like, you need to find some new people. Around here, in this place at Elevate, we are here to equip, encourage, and empower you. And so we're going to find people that want to equip, encourage, and empower students to transform the world around them. That's what this is about. And as we continue to do this, and as we get back to school, and as we get back to work, and as we go our ways outside of these walls, we will be able to go out equipped, encouraged, and empowered to see revival happen everywhere we step. And so you're going to be surrounded by similar thinking people that say, hey, I want to be equipped, I want to be empowered, I want to be encouraged to go out and bring revival to this place. Paul in 1 Corinthians, that's in the New Testament, he said, bad company corrupts good character. I'm telling you, who you have around you matters. What you are putting in your ears matters. That includes the people around you. That includes the music you listen to. That includes the TV shows that you watch. That includes all of it. You don't think the devil knows how big Netflix is? And how much we binge on it? And the subtle messages that he wants to bring to us through that? We have to be on guard for that stuff. That stuff counts too. I want to be surrounded by people who are so courageous that want to do extraordinary things and are also crazy enough to actually do something with that. I want Elevate to be a ministry where we are so courageous, I can't even say the word, that we are just so courageous to go out and actually think and believe that we can bring revival to the schools that we go to bring revival to York, to bring revival to Pennsylvania, to bring revival to the country, to bring revival to the world, and actually step out in action and make it happen. Jesus transformed the world with teenagers. What are you? I want to be people that are not living recklessly, but living with such courage and character that revival can't help but break out. Let me finish and encourage you with this. Psalm 23. Psalm 23 says this, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." That's the whole chapter. It's 6 verses. And so what I'm asking us to do, we have 2 weeks until we meet again. Let's memorize this. Let's say this over ourselves in the morning. Before we go to bed, let's say this over ourselves. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I have nothing to fear because I know that you're with me. Everywhere that I go, I know that goodness and love follows me. And if we can get this not just memorized in our heads, but into our hearts, we can't help but see revival break out wherever we go. Because we know what we're carrying with us, and we know who's with us, and we know that, yeah, I might be young, but that doesn't mean I can't do anything. Watch me. Watch how crazy I am. That's who we are. And that's the command of courage that God has given us. Heavenly Father, we thank you for who you are. God, fill us with courage. May we be strong and courageous. May we be those that go out in the face of fear. We go out and say, yeah, I feel it, but I have more courage. Because I know that you're with me. Because I know that you're following me. Because I know that you are guiding every step. God, thank you for this ministry. God, we ask that you bless us so that we can be a blessing to others, because we are not successful until we bring your promise to the people around us. Lord, let us take this command seriously to be courageous. We thank you and we love you for what you're doing. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right, let's split up into groups. Let's keep this conversation going.